in to the DNVR Rockies podcast brought to you by DraftKings Sportsbook. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use promo code DNVR, and new customers can bet just $5 on any college football team and get a $200 bet free instantly, win or lose. That's with promo code DNVR, only on DraftKings Sportsbook. Welcome into the DNVR Rockies podcast. I'm Suzie Hunter, and as you can see if you're watching us on YouTube, Patrick has the day off, very much deserved, so it is just me steering the ship. He'll be back on Sunday for our live post-game show at the end of this Mets series, but until then, I will be walking you through some Rockies baseball. I'm excited. Yahir's here too, producing for me. I've given him full permission to interject whenever he wants because this will be a fun show. We have a packed show. We've got Mets broadcaster Wayne Randazzo. He's going to join us in a bit. We're going to hear from Lucas Gilbreath on his unusual post-game routine. Here's a hint. It involves fast food. And we'll talk to mindset coach Lindsay Freezman on why Lucas is kind of onto something and why baseball superstitions work so well. But first, we're going to recap the game on Thursday night. The Rockies lost to the Mets 3-1. The Rockies are now 54-72. The Mets won their 80th game last night. They're 80-46. They're having a great season. They're having a season like they haven't seen in a while. But the Rockies also fall to 18-40 on the road. 18 games, they've won on the road.
Are you surprised at all?
A little bit.
I'm not. The Rockies will always rocky to me.
The Rockies will always rocky. The Mets will always Met for sure, but they're having a good time. But yeah, all three of those Mets runs came in the third inning last night, and that included a 409-foot two-run homer from Pete Alonso. But deGrom was absolutely dealing for about 4 1/3 inning. But then Jose Iglesias singled, Grichuk doubled. But then the 6th inning, Ryan McMahon homered off of deGrom. So he said on AT&T Sportsnet last night, everyone knows how good deGrom is, and he came at them tonight, talking about last night. We knew we would have to fight for everything we could get. So he definitely put up that fight, but then he came up short again with the bases loaded in the 7th. Obviously, that would have turned the game around. But yeah, that is what was going on in Queens last night. The Mets also still have freshly called up rookie Brett Baty. So he made his Citi Field debut. The Mets kind of had no choice but to call him up. They have a lot of injuries. So he was still in Double-A only 3 weeks ago. But I do have a tweet that I wanted to pull up. We're peeping some tweets today. This is just one tweet that we're peeping. But someone noted that Brett Baty was walking up to "I'm Just a Kid" by Simple Plan, which is, kind of a popular TikTok song right now, but also is this a cry for help? Because he had such a strong start, but he's been slumping a little bit. Brett Baty, do you need an adult? Are you doing okay? I swear that got a laugh out of you here. I swear I'm entertaining. But we also got to see former Rocky Adam Ottavino. He closed out the game for the Mets with a scoreless 9th inning. That's his first save of the season too. So yeah, that's what the Mets game looked like last night. We'll get into what to expect later on, but I spoke with Mets broadcaster Wayne Randazzo earlier today about the Mets season, how they're doing, everything going on out there. We had a great conversation. So yeah, let's roll it, please. All right, we are joined by Wayne Randazzo, voice of the Mets, part of the amazing Mets booth over in New York. Wayne, how are you doing?
I'm doing great, Suzie. How are you?
I am good. All right, now as the Rockies are in New York right now playing the Mets, I know a lot of people say things historically like, the Mets, they're going to Met. But this season, I feel like has been really different. What's it been like for you guys out there?
Well, it's been great. His team has played really well pretty much the entire season. They've been in first place every day except for one, and it's tight right now. Out of the teams that have won 75, 80 games, like where the Mets are, everybody's got a big lead. Even the Yankees, who had a tough month or so, they still have a 7.5 game lead. The Dodgers are up by like 50, and I think the Astros have like a 13 game lead too. So the Mets have all these wins just like those teams do, and yet they have a 2-game lead. So it's been uncomfortable, even though the Mets have had such a great season. You have to try to focus on the fact that they're really, really a good team. But also they might not win this division because of how great of a team Atlanta is. And I think that's tough for fans to kind of wrap their minds around right now, because this team could win over 100 games and still finish second. So it's going to be a wild finish here. And the Mets are trying to do what they can to make sure they stay just in front of the Braves.
Yeah, the NL East has been wild, and I've seen the Braves creeping up. So I'm waiting for like the Mets Twitter implosion. I feel like I follow a lot of Mets fans. They're very vocal.
Yeah. They are vocal, they're opinionated, and they're scared a lot of the time. So they're clutching onto the ride right now. And I think Tuesday's loss against the Yankees was a spiral for them a little bit. But the Mets schedule is a little easier moving forward. They play the Dodgers after the Rockies, and then they'll play a lot of teams that are under 500 after that. So they're hoping that they can handle their business and keep Atlanta away.
Yeah, for sure. So I want to talk about one of the Mets trade deadline pickups, Daniel Vogelbach. So when the Pirates were here in town in Colorado, I got to see him interacting with his teammates in the clubhouse, and I was just like, whoa, okay, this dude's hilarious. He is such a personality. I had no idea, but I feel like the second he arrived in New York, people picked up on it right away. What's it been like having him around now?
Yeah, I think that the team has really responded to Vogelback. Buck Showalter keeps saying that Dan and Max Scherzer should have a reality TV show together, because they are so fun in the dugout, always ribbing on each other, and making it just a very light atmosphere around the team. So they really like Vogelback as a person, but as a player, he's done very well. He's been exactly as advertised. He's a very selective hitter. He's got a lot of power, and we've seen him have some very good moments for the Mets. The Mets have a deep enough roster to allow Dan to bat basically exclusively against right-handed pitching. He's hardly ever going to face a lefty in a Mets uniform, because they've got guys who can do that from the right side of the plate on the bench that can jump in and handle those at bats. So it's rare when Vogelback faces a lefty, which his numbers against left-handers are not very good, but against right-handers they're great. And he's been able to maintain a lot of that, and it looks a lot better as a Met for him, because he's basically facing his strengths only and not really dealing with any of his weaknesses. So it's been good to have Vogelback around. I think he's brought a good attitude to the Mets. I think he likes being involved on a team that's trying to win, and I think he's gotten close with the guys already. He actually knew Lindor and Nito already, because they played travel ball together in the Orlando area as kids. So he already knew those guys since he was like 12 years old. So he's fit right in, and he's been a good pickup for them.
Yes, a fine Florida man. I overheard him talking a lot about some Florida stories. He was absolutely cracking me up. So I'm happy to see he's in a market that like really appreciates that personality, but also happy to see him in a market that like is a really good fit for him. All right, so I love asking other people in other markets this question. What are your impressions of the Rockies this season?
My impressions of the Rockies. Well, I think it was strange to everybody to see them sign Chris Bryant to that big contract, and unfortunately, they haven't gotten much out of Chris. He's been hurt a lot of the year, and you just want to see teams that are like the Rockies, that are trying to figure out a way to compete, do so. And I think they have to do so through developing players. I know that Montero has come up and given a little bit of a spark here lately. You still have Charlie Blackmon and CJ Cron and some older guys that are being productive, which is good. But, guys like McMahon and Rogers and whatever else they can develop in their farm system, those are the guys they really need to step in and be leaders and be productive. So you want to see that continue. And Connor Joe has had a really good year too. So I think the Rockies, it's tough for them to build a team, always has been, because of Coors Field, because you look at their record at home, they're fine. They go on the road and they're not fine. And it's really difficult to wrap your mind around. Well, these 81 games we're going to be able to compete, and these other 81, we're not as competitive. How do you really build around that when you're not spending all the money to try to have all the best players there? So I think the Rockies are a team that is headed into a direction that I think needs to be about developing players, and I hope that that's where they go, and hopefully they can figure out a way to get up there in the National League West. Not easy, because you have all these teams that do spend money. The Dodgers not only spend money but develop players. the Padres are spending a lot of money and after developing players, traded them all to Washington. But I think that you look around the division and it's tough to compete when you're a team that's not going to be spending as much money as the big boys.
Yeah, we definitely have a lot of big boys in the NL West over here for sure. All right, so from your perspective, heading into or during this, Rockies Mets series, what do you think are some of the weaknesses in this Mets team that the Rockies could potentially take advantage of?
Well, I think there was a decent chance last night when you saw deGrom come out of the game after 6 innings, because that left 2 innings where you weren't going to see either deGrom or Edwin Diaz. And those are the innings, the Mets starters have all been pretty good. You're going to see Scherzer on Sunday. But even without Scherzer and deGrom, all these guys have been really good this year. There have been some pockets where maybe there's been a struggle for somebody. David Peterson, a Colorado native, is going to pitch in the series, and Peterson is a guy who maybe isn't as strong as those others, but still has had a good year. The thing about Peterson, unlike Bassett, who you'll see tonight, Peterson won't go as deep into games. So that leaves a few innings there before Edwin Diaz where you can pick on somebody else in that bullpen. And that's really where the Mets, I think, have their biggest weakness, is getting to Edwin Diaz. They didn't do enough at the trade deadline, and they brought in Michael Givens, a former Rocky. They've got Ottavino, who was a very good Colorado Rocky pitcher, and who's had a good year. I think Ottavino's been their best reliever outside of Diaz. But even, he's not exactly the shutdown guy that Edwin is. They don't really have one outside of Edwin. So taking advantage of the mid to late innings without the starter in there and without Diaz in there, that's going to be a time where the Rockies need to score runs. And had some chances last night, got guys on in the 7th and didn't come through. And then Diaz and Ottavino kind of shut the door after that. But, that will be an opportunity for the Rockies to try to steal at least one from the Mets, is to beat up on their bullpen a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. That's kind of the story of the Rocky season too, leaving men on base, having the opportunity, and then the opportunity does not pan out. All right, so I want to talk about Peterson, because we could potentially see a couple of Colorado natives pitching or starting against each other. I mean, we're trying to think, like, has this ever happened before? I don't know.
I would hope that it has. I would think that there's a lot of good baseball talent in Colorado. There's always guys coming out of there who've been in the big leagues. I think in Peterson's case especially, you have a guy who's made a good impression on the Mets this year, and even though he's kind of gone back and forth between AAA and the major leagues, that's not really an indictment of Peterson. It's just a numbers game. The Mets loaded their rotation with a lot of veterans. They've got 5 veteran pitchers, and Peterson has been used as a depth piece. Now, after this year, the Mets have Bassett as a potential free agent. They've got Carrasco, Walker, and Jacob deGrom probably too, who says he's going to opt out of his deal. So out of the 5 starters, 4 are going to be free agents most likely. So they're not going to re-sign them all. They'll rely on some of their depth they have put together, guys like Tyler McGill and Peterson, and I would very much expect Peterson to be a regular part of the 5-man rotation starting next year.
Yeah. All right, we mentioned deGrom. How great has it been having him back in the rotation?
It's huge. It seems crazy that they won so many games without him, because he's such a big part of anchoring down the rotation, even though he's not going totally long yet, and he's not fulfilling 100 pitches or more yet, and they hope that they'll get him there. He's still, for the 5-6 innings he's out there, just dominant, just crushing the other team. It was last night. 4 perfect innings, and you start to wonder, is this the night? He's never really had a long no hit or perfect game bid. I think he had one his rookie year, and then he hasn't had one since. So all the Cy Young years, all-star games, even last year where he was only able to pitch half the season, he's never had a no-hit bid going to like the 8th or 9th inning. And we start to think every time he gets through the first few innings of a game that this is it. This is going to be the night where he takes it deep. But Iglesias is a good hitter and a guy who makes a lot of contact, and he got the hit, and deGrom ends up giving up a run. McMahon hit a homer off him anyway. But, I think that when you have somebody who is going to keep the other team held down to to 1 or 2 runs at most. It really just gives your team a chance to win that game, and having a chance to win on a nightly basis is what this team is really all about. It's why they've relied so heavily on their starting pitching, because each of those guys gives them a chance to win. And I think you'll see it with the Rockies from time to time, that when the starting pitcher gives up 7 runs in 4 innings, your chances to win are pretty much defeated for that night. When it happens consistently, that's when you start to pile up losses.
Yeah, for sure. All right, so let's talk about where you are right now and what you're up to, because you are not in New York. You will not be doing. You will not be joining the Mets for this series until the second half of this series. But yeah, you're off doing an Apple TV game.
I am, yeah. Apple TV Plus Friday night. I've got the Mariners and the Cleveland Guardians tonight, and it'll be a good game. Those two teams are actually lined up to face each other in the playoffs as of right now. A lot can change in the American League, especially over the next month. But it's going to be a good one tonight. Shane Bieber and Logan Gilbert are the starters. It's exciting to see these teams, and even though the Mets are having a great year, it's fun to go around the league a little bit and see what else is out there. And I'm excited to do the game. Chris Young and Russ Dorsey joining me on the Apple TV broadcast tonight, so it'll be great.
Yeah, you got a good crew going on
Yeah.
there. So you're so entrenched in the Mets. How do you take your head out of the thing that you do every day and prepare for just two teams that you kind of don't see too much?
Yeah, that's a good question, because that's a big part of it. If it was a National League game, it probably wouldn't feel as much of a heavy lifting as it is being two American League teams. But I started digging in probably 2 weeks ago, where I started to just look at the rosters and start reading game stories, and then over the last week, really kind of getting heavy on each starter for each team, and starting position player, and plus the two starting pitchers, and just kind of reading storylines and understanding who's been helpful for those teams lately, especially as they've both had good second halves. So it's a lot. It's a lot of extra work, but it's fun to do it. It's fun. It's for me, as a guy who just loves the game. It's fun to step into a different environment, and especially here in Seattle, where they're crazy right now about breaking this postseason drought, and they really think this is a team that can get to the playoffs for the first time in over 20 years.
Yeah, I think I even saw some tweets about them trying to sign an extension with Julio Rodriguez. I mean, that would be huge for them.
Well, it's kind of like the Atlanta model. The Braves sign all these young players, and they eat up some of their free agent years. In Julio's case, if he's going to sign a 14-year contract, well, that'll take him to 35, and that will pretty much take out his best free agent years. But a lot of times what we see the Braves do is give these guys 8 or 10-year contracts and still give them an opportunity to hit free agency. Acuna signed a 10-year deal. Albies signed a 7-year deal. Michael Harris just signed for 8. Riley signed for 10. So they get these guys for a long time, but they also give them an opportunity to get out when they're still at an age where they can get some money at the age of 31 or 32 or whatever. And I know the Braves have even talked about, because Albies took such a low contract compared to everybody else, that they've even discussed ripping it up at some point and giving him a new deal just to make sure he gets his money at some point, because he's been so valuable to that franchise. They even did it with Freddie Freeman. They signed Freddie to a long contract when he was a young player. It just was up after last year. So then he went into free agency and he got an even bigger contract with the Dodgers. But I think following the Braves model is very smart for teams that have young players that they love. And what's not to love about Julio and that fit in Seattle? So it's perfect for them and perfect for him. And I'm glad that they're getting it done.
Exactly. Yeah. What's not to love? It'll be interesting next season, because we'll all be playing the Mariners at some point and playing everyone, because this whole new schedule will have every team playing every other team. What do you think? What are your thoughts on how it works out for the Mets next year?
Well, I love it. I think it's great because of what we were just talking about. Like, when do the Mets play the Mariners? Every few years. You don't see Julio. You won't. I've seen Mike Trout play in person twice now, and I've been with the Mets since 2015. So it's really unfortunate that you don't get to see everybody. And I think that the new schedule opens the door for that. Plus these division games. I mean, you guys see it with the Rockies. How many times do you need to play the Diamondbacks. How many Rockies? It feels like the Rockies and the Diamondbacks play each other 75 times a year. So I think eliminating some of that is good. I think it'll be good. The Mets don't need to see the Marlins 19 times a year. It's too much. So
it's too much.
It's too much. That's right. So
I'm right there with you. Yeah. But continue what you're saying. Sorry.
Different flavors are good. You go to ice cream places and they've got a lot of flavors, and that's a good thing. You can come back and revisit your favorites, or you can try something new. And I think that's very open to all of that. And I'm glad baseball is now too.
Yeah, I'm excited to see Mike Trout gets to come to Coors Field. I've never seen him at Coors Field before like that. So it'll be a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to mixing it up a little bit. Okay, and actually, before I let you go, I do want to ask you about something I know you guys were talking about in your booth last year. I feel like you guys got a kick out of Tyler Kinley's story. It's a shame that he has been on the IL all season because he was just having a career season. He was so great for us. But I know you guys got a kick out of that story. Are you bummed that you kind of don't get to rehash that again this weekend?
It's really, you should change your name there. You've got it as the Suzie Hunter. You should put Suzie the Hunter, because you were the one who hunted that story down and exposed Tyler Kinley and his false legacy. And I'm glad you did, and we did get a kick out of it because we'd heard that before, that he was related to the former President McKinley, and I think we had mentioned that as a little aside on the broadcast. So the fact that there was chaos and controversy surrounding that, as revealed by you, was really great. And if you can dig around the league and find more controversies like that, blow up some conspiracy theories, you would get a lot more airtime on Mets broadcast for sure.
Clearly. And that's like really my end game, is to just be talked about on the Mets broadcast. I would love to, see if anyone else has some stories that need blowing up, because this kind of married two of my hobbies, genealogy and baseball. And spending a lot of time on the internet.
There you go. There's probably a lot more. You can find a lot of different ways that people are and aren't related to other famous people if you really dig in. So
some very niche content here.
Hey, that's fine. People like that stuff. People will find you if they think you've got a good route. So that could be it. Like I said, Suzie the Hunter. Think about it.
Yes. I will think about it. I do appreciate, I didn't do this, but someone else updated his Wikipedia page, which has just taken such a burden off of me. I'm like, okay, great. Now people will just see it when they Google him. I don't have to explain it.
Perfect. You've done your job.
I've done my job. That is my one job. Wayne, thank you so much for joining us. I'm looking forward to hearing you rejoin the Mets broadcast on Saturday, but have a great Apple TV broadcast, and we will talk to you soon.
All right. Thanks, Suzie.
Thanks.
We were talking about you. All right. So glad that I got to talk to Wayne. Also, so glad that he is so invested in my brand. I know you here got a kick out of my new Twitter handle that he suggested, Suzie the Hunter. He liked it. But this is a great opportunity for us to remind you, the fam, that tomorrow is the day. Saturday's preseason game versus the Vikings at Mile High is going to be like no other, thanks to our DNVR Broncos tailgate starting at 4 p.m. So if you're not a member already, you are missing out on price breaks for Broncos tailgates and the Nuggets party bus. The annual membership comes with a free shirt from DNVRlocker.com. You get a member-sized beer at the DNVR bar, which will be opening back up soon. Extra raffle tickets at all of those watch parties to win free gear, and we've got the best gear in the world. Plus all access to our members-only Discord, where you can have great conversations about sports, especially the Rockies. You don't have to worry about politics or a-holes. Just chat with everyone in our awesome community that we have curated. So if you're not a member, it's only 50 cents for your first month at thednvr.com. And we cannot move on with the show without mentioning Lightshade. We also have to tell you about their relief and recovery creams from Escape Artists. It's the highest awarded topical brand in Colorado that prioritized quality and consistency. Now, Escape Artists produces those creams that help penetrate deep muscle tissue and discomfort that's for deep tissue, Let's start this sentence over you here, shall we? All right, so they penetrate deep muscle tissue discomfort, so it's fast absorbing. Plus, they aren't greasy and they aren't going to stain your clothes or your sheets, which is huge for me. But the best part is that you can find them at your local Lightshade dispensary. There are 11 in the Denver metro area, including one super close to the DNVR bar. But Lightshade has a premium selection of cannabis concentrates, top shelf flower, edibles, tinctures, accessories, and more. And now, podcast listeners, you can get 25% off non-sale items with code DNVR. So shop online at lightshade.com or pick up, or for a pickup, visit a Lightshade location near you. The one near us is on 6th Ave. It's about 8 minutes away. Super close.
I love Lightshade, by the way. As you know, I got a quad problem.
You do have a quad problem.
And that...
Do you want to tell us about your quad problem?
Not really. I might get sued because I don't know if he signed a waiver. But I do use that cream, the cream that they sell, and it's been helping me out all week. Like for the last 24 hours, that's the only thing taking the pain away.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, here's quad problem. He signed a non-disclosure agreement, so he can't tell us who injured him. But I'm wishing you the best recovery, and I'm happy Lightshade is helping you. You know what helps me, though? Watch all of my favorite sports content is Avaca TV. It's the only... We know that the only issue with the Nuggets and Avs right now is that you can't watch them at home. But Avaca TV has changed that. You can watch the Nuggets, you can watch the Avs, you can also get other Colorado teams like the Rapids, Mammoth. You're going to get CSU Rams, Denver Pioneers, and of course Colorado Rockies, all in one place. The service is now available up and down the Rocky Mountain region. So in Denver, Colorado Springs, Phoenix, Boise, Twin Falls, Idaho. So the bottom line is Avaca TV has all of the sports that you want to watch. So all you have to do is go to Avaca TV or avaca.tv. That's EVOCA.TV/Colorado10. And there are 0 hidden fees or contracts. It's just $25 a month plus the receiver, and your price is locked in for 2 years, so you never have to worry again with Avaca TV. Enjoy the Nuggets and the Avalanche once again. But, oh my goodness, one more thing. Use code Colorado10 for $10 off your first 3 months. So that's only $15 now per month to start. No contracts, no catches. Avaca TV is made for champions of the remote. How fun does that sound, you hear?
I'm a company man, so I actually have Avaca.
Yes.
And I love it to death. Watch every sport, and you can record every game too.
Ooh.
And if you have with your Avaca TV now, you can watch the game. You can stream it on their official apps.
I love this.
So I love Avaca.
I love this for us. This is great. And they've been great partners with us too. We've got a DNVR Nuggets Serbia documentary that's going to be coming out on Avaca TV if they ever get back from Serbia, because the guys are kind of stuck over there right now.
They are. They really are.
They're a little stranded, so we don't know when the Nuggets beat is coming back. Hopefully before the season starts. But yeah, international air travel, kind of a mess right now. But yeah, nonetheless, looking forward to the Serbia documentary on Avaca TV when that comes out. All right, so we've got some news to address around the baseball world. And we've got breaking news music. I love this. All right, so Bryce Harper is making his return to the Phillies lineup Friday night after being out for 2 months. Listen, this is not Phillies news. This is good for baseball news because we need to see rating MVPs back in the game and healthy. Julio Rodriguez, so this is a big one. Julio Rodriguez and the Mariners finalizing a massive contract extension for the incredible rookie. $210 million guaranteed over 4 years with the ability to grow that to over $400 million. So they are locking down Julio Rodriguez, which I think is fantastic too. As you know, that is the guy I picked for the AL Rookie of the Year. I am pretty happy with that pick so far. Some Isotopes news. The Isotopes found a kitten, and the kitten is so cute. We have a picture if you're watching us on YouTube. So basically during an Isotopes game earlier this week, a little kitten was found. Kitten's like not even old enough to be adopted, like maybe 5 weeks old. But they decided to name her Orbit. She's a girl, they found out, and they think the mom is living somewhere under the park on the first base side because the soccer team that also shares that stadium found a couple of kittens found a couple of kittens during a match. That is apparently a tongue twister, but they found some kittens a couple weeks ago. But now that kitten is at a humane society and will be up for adoption probably in a couple of weeks, but she's just so little right now. Oh my gosh, so cute. So cute. Speaking of babies, Nolan Arenado having a kitten of his own. I hate that transition. Nolan Arenado is on paternity leave. He left Wrigley right before the final game of that Cards Cubs series to get back to St. Louis to be with his wife. They placed him on the paternity list, so he's got a baby on the way. Some other very recent news. Daniel Bard was just on Intentional Talk. Like at the time of recording this, it was probably like within the hour. But yeah, he was talking about how, of course he's happy to have made his incredible comeback after being out of the league for so long, about how he thought it would never happen again. But he also talked a lot about his charity. So he's donating $300 to charity for every strikeout. He's had 51 strikeouts, and the Rockies Foundation is matching those too. We have a story up about that on thednvr.com that I wrote when he first started doing this initiative at the beginning of the season. So if you want to learn more about that, that's my shameless plug. But, he also mentioned how he feels like the Rockies are turning a corner with all of the young talent coming up. I like that energy. Speaking of talent coming up, Steve Harvey is officially a Rockies fan because he shared a video of Whit Bernard from his Family Feud appearances, and he also shared some footage of his Major League debut on Instagram. So I think, Yahir, do you agree with me that Steve Harvey is absolutely a Rockies fan now?
I think he's the most famous celebrity to follow this team.
Every team has their big celebrity, and I guess Steve Harvey is now the Rockies.
It used to be Jake Jabs from American Warehouse.
From what?
American Warehouse. If you were born and raised in Colorado, Jake Jabs is like a huge name that you would see all the time on commercials.
Oh, wow.
So he's a Colorado legend.
We need to upgrade because Steve Harvey is an international legend. So I am pushing for him to make it to a Rockies game by the end of the season, so he and Witten can reunite. I love it. I absolutely love it. All right. One other thing. So Patrick shared this with me earlier today. I feel like he wants to turn this into a bit, I know, but outside of Camden Yards. So it looks like someone has marked the spot outside of Camden Yards where they have the monuments of retired numbers. Someone marked where Adley Rushman's number needs to go. I love that energy. I'm living for that energy, and I can't wait to talk to Patrick again on Sunday so we can hear his take on it.
What are the odds that just a random person went out there and marked it?
I mean, it's definitely I'm assuming it's a random person, actually.
See, I don't know that much, so I'm hoping that it's a random person.
Because it does seem a little soon. To be planning it already. He doesn't even have a full season under his belt yet.
Hey, if Kale McCarr can already get his jersey retired, I'm sure he can get a statue too.
Oh, yeah, of course. All right. So speaking of Twitter, we've peeped some tweets. Every day, Twitter has a main character, and the goal is to not be that main character. But today, Zach Campbell is the main character. So he, a couple of days ago, posted his video from Coors Field. He was here at Coors Field during the Cardinals series. So he posts this video where he's so upset about the way he was treated at Coors Field. Here, have you seen this?
I have not seen any videos.
Okay.
I've been off Twitter for the last week or so.
Good for you. It's so good for your mental health. But don't do that because we post so much good stuff. Okay. So Zach Campbell posted a video about how he feels he was so mistreated at Coors Field. He was running around in that walkway in front of the bleachers trying to catch a home run. And afterwards, the usher said, you can't do that. You have to go back to your section because right now you're not in any section right now. And Zach Campbell yells at the usher, and then he is surprised that the other ushers tell him to go back to his seat. So he is coming at this I was so mistreated. This was such a terrible fan experience. He said to the ushers, you get a big fat F for fan experience. But now that the people of Twitter have found this, he does not have a lot of Rockies fans or other baseball fans backing him up. We do have a tweet. This was probably my favorite. This is from Piper, who is a great person on Rockies Twitter. Love her to pieces. But this was, let's see, do we have it up? We're finding it. So yeah, like people have takes. Some people are sticking up for Zach. A lot of people are not. But someone replied to Zach's tweet and said, "This is way too much. Do you realize that what Zach does for your park and for other parks? This guy's literally bringing free promotion." But Piper, okay, she says the Colorado Rockies have a 54-72 record, and they still ranked 8th in MLB attendance. I think they'll be okay. I'm like, yeah, I think Coors Field has plenty of promotion. It's known as one of the best ballparks to go to by a lot of people. So interesting that he thinks Coors Field will crumble without his blessing. Thank you. Thank you. So that is my soapbox on the Zach Hampel situation. Video's up on YouTube if you want to watch it. But yeah, he goes into, it's like 20 minutes of him.
By the way, I just went through his Twitter real quick to see who he was, because I don't know who Zach Hampel is.
Oh, yeah.
And he has the picture with Jake Paul. Immediate red flag where I'm not.
That is a red flag.
Not going to get near him. Don't believe his opinion. Get the hell out of here.
That is actually the biggest red flag. Anyone in the Paul family is just, please stay away. Yeah, very interesting stuff. He is a known baseball YouTuber. He catches a lot of balls. Sometimes runs over some kids. That sounded terrible.
Catches balls and runs over kids.
Catches balls, runs over kids. Just like a big old problem. I'm a big old problem. All right. Should we've got some great content coming up in the rest of the show. We have to talk about Lucas Gilbreath and his post-game routine. We have to talk to mindset coach Lindsay Freezman. But before that, shall we shout out some more sponsors?
More than happy to pay some bills.
More than happy. We're going to talk about the American Raptors. This rugby club composed of crossover athletes ended their first season at 5-5. It's pretty great for former athletes coming together for the first time and putting their skills to the test. So if you haven't heard of the American Raptors, they are Rugby Town USA's newest rugby team. The American Raptors are athletes who have competed at the highest level of their respective sports. So coming from different backgrounds in football, basketball, baseball, wrestling, soccer, and track and field, these athletes just have all of the necessary skills to excel at the game of rugby. Now, what's the best thing about hitting up an American Raptors game? They are totally free. You did hear that right. They're totally free. So head over to AmericanRaptors.com and grab your free ticket for their upcoming season. And if you can't make it to the game, AmericanRaptors.com will be streaming all of them on their website. So check it out. And what's even better, here, can you believe it gets even better?
I'm very not believing right now.
He's not believing it. It's even better. Our guy, Colton Strickler, has it all covered for you on the weekly DNVR Rugby podcast. So hit that subscribe button. So if you didn't get the ticket you wanted as an elite athlete, check out opportunities at Infinity Park. Rugby may just be your next thing. So follow. Oh.
Huge Colton guy, by the way. He does a great job of explaining rugby.
And I need that. I need everything explained to me, basically. But yeah, you can learn rugby with Colton's 101 Rugby podcast, exclusive interviews with the athletes and coaches, and provides betting advice for Super Rugby that starts at the end of February. You can find all of that and more at AmericanRaptors.com. How does that sound, you hear?
That sounds amazing. Free games and you get to hear a podcast.
And a podcast.
And Susie's over here trying to balance her life as she is trying to balance that microphone and her computer. So
I needed to move the mic and my laptop fell and everything is a mess. But you know what's not a mess is Lucas Gilbreath's post-game routine. So Lucas Gilbreath, he's been so solid all season. Great reliever. But then had a couple of bad outings in a row. He had a couple of bad outings, but then went out and had a great one. So I wanted to talk to him. So we had a conversation earlier this week about how he recovers from having, a game that really didn't go his way. So we chatted. I love his routine. Yeah, here, let's roll it. We were talking about you in the post game with Buddy. You mentioned you were talking with Daryl about stuff. I saw you working with Servant about stuff. What
Yes.
exactly were you working on that kind of made things click tonight?
Yeah, for me, it's kind of silly, but, as a reliever, you talk about having a short memory and this and that, and, you might have 18 good ones in a row, you might have 2-3 bad ones in a row, and, I had 2 bad ones in a row, and we got to the point where I don't even think it was as much analytics as it was, hey, be confident, trust your stuff. And it was good to hear. It's just good to have that reinforced. And we kind of talked about how I need to use my stuff in the strike zone, how I need to be aggressive in the strike zone. And, I was able to talk to Servant about that a little bit today, telling him, I think it'd help if you set up here. And he said, okay. And I've known Servant for a while, obviously, and he knows me. So he was like, okay, I think you're doing this. And I was like, yeah, I agree. So for me, it was just, I'm going to be aggressive in the zone. The numbers back that up. I just need to be confident. And as stupid as it sounds, sometimes even knowing that you get into those ruts where, not to say I was gun shy, but I started nitpicking corners, and now I walk guys, and now that blooper, that ground ball hit, it does damage. But when I'm aggressive in the zone, I'll take my chances, and if I get beat that way, I get beat that way.
Yeah. So then what do you do mentally to be like, okay, now I'm confident?
Yes, so you love my superstition stuff. This is where I get a little deep. So I will let myself pout for the rest of the day. So if I have a bad outing, I will let myself be grumpy and be pissed off the rest of the day. I get McDonald's because I've just been doing that forever. Mm-hmm. And then I eat my McDonald's, and then the next morning, nothing happens. And I intentionally make myself smile and act like, even if I have the worst outing ever, act like nothing happened because, it's a short memory thing. But fun story for you. Last night, I went and got my McDonald's. My wife picked it up for me, actually. We went to look at something in the basement, and my lovely dog jumped up on the counter and ate my McDonald's.
No.
So I had to go back to McDonald's. But yes, I'm that dedicated to my routine. But I drove back, and it worked, so we're all good again.
No, I like that. Do you allow yourself also to just feel how you feel about an outing that didn't go your way?
Because I've tried the game's over, be happy, and it's not that easy. There is times where, last night I want to watch video. It's frustrating to watch video because you're like, what am I doing? In hindsight, it's 2020, obviously, but I give myself time to watch it, process it, kind of try and figure out, okay, what was I doing? How can I improve on that? And then, you can be upset with yourself because, you do stupid stuff, and you inherently are going to continue to do stupid stuff. And then once that next day starts, you're like, all right, good to go. I might, I told Thomas, it's like, I had a bad one, but you might be in a situation where, I told him this before the game, I was like, I might have to come in a situation again where I need to put together a good outing and help the team, and that's exactly what happened. So you're not going to be perfect, but you just hope that, that one bad outing, 2 bad outings doesn't snowball into 5. That's what kills you.
So then what do you eat after a good outing?
After a good outing, I get the best from Chef Tyler.
Yes.
I just take it as I don't deserve that food when I pitch back. So that's why I get McDonald's.
That's fantastic. All right, thank you very much.
Yeah.
This is probably one of my favorite conversations of the whole season. Also, congratulations to Lucas Gilbreath's dog on getting some free McDonald's. I'm sure the dog enjoyed it so much. But so this is always my biggest question too, because I feel like we talk about this so much in the clubhouse. How do you fix your issues when it's a confidence problem? So we talked to mindset coach Lindsay Freezman, who literally does this for a living, about how you make that mental shift. Let's roll it.
All right, we are joined now by mindset coach Lindsay Freezman. She works with athletes, so I wanted to get her perspective on Lucas Gilbreath's post-game routine. Lindsay, how are you doing?
I'm great. How are you, Suzie?
I am so good. I'm so excited that you're joining us because I know you have so much unique insight. So first of all, what part of his routine stuck out the most to you?
So I think the part that stuck out most to me was the part where he says that he's able to move on, right? So he does all these things, and then he's like, all right, put that in the past, and let's go on to the next.
Yeah, he very much, he almost compartmentalizes it, but I loved so much how he was like, okay, I just allow myself to be sad and to pout and to be upset. What about that do you think works in this case?
So I think that the whole it's just having a routine is really helpful. So the fact that he just has a routine and kind of is aware of what's going on in that moment, like, okay, I had a bad game. You have to fall into some kind of routine. So he allows himself to do that. And so I'm thinking it's emotional intelligence, acknowledgement, feeling, learning, and letting go. So he acknowledges his emotion. you're angry, you did something wrong, you're upset at yourself, or you did something that wasn't for the best of the team or the best of you. So you're upset at yourself. You acknowledge that. You feel your emotions. You pout. You go, you eat your McDonald's. You feel that. It's really important because you have to honor these emotions. These emotions are who we are, and they're okay. So that leads us into learning. Honoring them and acknowledging it allows you to learn from that emotion. So as an athlete and in baseball, with all the magic that happens in baseball and all those superstitions, it's actually a scientific fact is that if you can visualize or imagine something really well, then your brain doesn't know the difference between something well imagined and something in real life. So if you're able to kind of reflect and learn and apply those lessons to the game that you just had, you're more than likely not going to make that mistake again. And so now you've really learned from your mistake. You learn from the emotion and then letting go. I think that's like what I said. That's what stuck out to me the most, because there's so many people who don't know how to let go. And that's okay, because it's easy to say, but it's hard to do, to let go of these negative emotions. So I think the process of acknowledging, feeling, learning allows you to let go. And it sounds like he did just that.
Yeah. I mean, I always jokingly say, I've never gotten over anything. Why would I start now? But it is so important to move on from things mentally. He mentioned superstitions. I feel like the McDonald's I don't know if that's even a superstition. Can we call that a superstition? I feel like that's just comfort food.
It is comfort food, you're right, but you can also call it a superstition because it's something that he religiously does after he has a bad game. And so that it's like, a superstition is if you don't do it, what's going to happen? Or you need that. It's a comfort. It's a comfort food and a superstition.
So, okay, wait. So why do you think superstitions are so prevalent in baseball, and why do they kind of work?
Right. I know. I think they're so prevalent. I think they're prevalent in every sport. I think they're more prevalent in baseball because of how baseball flows. And how much you have to, it's fast paced for the player, but it's not fast paced for the team. So there's a lot of time for those superstitions to kind of manifest themselves into, like you're the hitter, but you can really visualize that ball coming and hitting the mat exactly where you want to hit it, and your bat hitting the ball exactly where you want it to hit it. So you use that magic I just think there's more time in baseball for the superstitions.
Yeah, for sure. We've also seen some guys this year. One of my favorite stories this year. So our outfielder, Sam Hilliard, he told us this story about how one day he looked in the mirror and said, "This beard has no hits," shaved it all off, came in with a clean face, and then had a great game. How is this possible? How can this work mentally for an athlete?
I love that because that is mindset. Our words hold so much power. And just him looking at himself in the mirror, right? You're looking at yourself, you're talking to yourself. This beard has not gotten any hits. It's a fact. So he shaves that beard off, and now it's just an inner confidence that came out. So it's a mindset, and it's those words are so powerful, what we say to ourselves, that they'll become real. He just spoke that into existence.
I love that. That's so cool. Lindsay, thank you so much for joining us. Tell us where we can find you on social media and where we can find your book.
You're awesome, Suzie. My book, Mindful Dedication, is found on Amazon. Mindful Dedication by Lindsay Freezman. You can find me at Mental Skill Zone on Instagram, on Facebook, and my email. You guys can always email me, mentalskillzone@gmail.com. So super simple. Thank you so much for having me, Suzie.
Thank you so much. We will talk again in the off season about this for sure.
Sounds good. Have a good night.
All right. Oh my gosh, I'm so happy we got to talk to Lindsay about that. Also, okay, so we've got a comment in here. McDonald's is a cornerstone restaurant for top athletes, says Steve G. I feel like he is correct. For top athletes and apparently their dogs.
Also, there's Gerard from the Avalanche. He has an Avalanche logo. Steven Gerrard.
Yeah.
And he's talking about athletes eating McDonald's. Is this secretly the Avalanche defenseman?
Oh my gosh.
Just watching our show and saying, yeah, I love McDonald's too.
We can only assume that is the case, actually. Thank you for putting that together, Detective Yahir.
Yeah, I'm Detective Popcorn because I'm popping all the cases off.
Is that? Did you just come up with that?
There's a podcast I listen to, no free promo, but they say that all the time, and I love that saying. So being able to say it on another podcast, dream come true.
Oh my God, I'm so happy. We're just making dreams come true left and right here today. Let's get into what we can expect from the Rockies the rest of this series. They've got 3 more in New York as of Friday. We're recording this about an hour before game time, actually. It's raining right now in New York, but I think it's going to clear up, so that's good news. But tonight on the mound, we've got Chris Bassett for the Mets. We've got Chad Kuhl making his first start since his IL stint. He had a great rehab assignment with the Isotopes, so let's hope he's got a good solid outing in New York. Excuse me. All right, we've got, as far as the lineup goes, Ryan McMahon is at third base. He is having a tremendous August, and he's batting leadoff. We've got Rogers at second, Blackmon DH, Crone is at first, of course, Iglesias at shortstop, Grichuk in right field, Diaz is catching, Connor Joe in left field, and Winton Bernard in center. The game is at 5:10 Mountain Time. And we'll see how it goes. I'm trying to remember. Patrick just did a whole video on this. How many games did he say the Rockies were going to take in New York? Do you remember?
I want to say 1 or 2, but I'm pretty sure it was 1.
I think he said 1.
Yeah.
I think he did say 1. So,
also, isn't it the most Rockies thing ever that the Mets have an electric closer with an electric song, and they don't even get to experience it? They get Ottavino instead. Isn't like that the most Rocky thing that you can get? Like, you don't even get to watch the cool thing the other team does. I hated that. I'm like, you don't even get to watch the cool entrance with the trumpet.
But we got to see Ottavino, which I think he's electric on his own.
It is, but you don't get to watch the social media sensation, which is like the best part about playing against the Mets.
You know what? That's true. That is so true. But, it's a long series. We'll see. We'll see what happens. But yeah. Last time I was at a Mets game, besides the one that was at Coors Field, when I was on my ballpark tour, the Mets were playing the Rockies when I went to Citi Field. So I got harassed by Mr. Met. He covered up my Rockies logo with his hand for a picture, which was very rude, and then came to Denver and tried to act like we were buddies at the All-Star game.
He knows that you have all the connections in Denver.
He also knows I talk a lot of smack about him because, he's
a weird-looking dude, honestly.
He's a weird-looking dude, but I always say Mrs. Met can do better. She's gorgeous.
Mrs. Met is one of the weirdest things to come out of baseball for sure.
Mrs. Met's a hottie.
That's
she a baddie.
Extremely weird. But we'll stand Mrs. Met for the rest of the show if you like.
You're just going to turn off the broadcast. All right, the rest of this series, our projected starters. Saturday night, we are expecting a Colorado Kid matchup. Lefty Kyle Freeland against lefty David Peterson. And then Sunday, we are expecting to see German Marquez versus Max Scherzer. So we are just getting, with Max Scherzer and deGrom, we are getting some of the toughest starters we can get from the Mets.
And yet we still can't get Edwin Diaz.
It's not fair. It's not fair. It's simply not fair. But anyway, what is fair is that we will be back on Sunday with a post-game show after the end of this series. Patrick will be back. We'll have a good time. Yahir, are you back with us too?
I have no idea. There's a really good chance I am, though.
We don't know. Well, actually, yeah, who else would it be? Because Kale is literally stranded in Serbia.
Exactly. Serbian Kale is still Serbian.
I'm excited for them to learn the new alphabet there. Because Serbia's got 2 alphabets. That's the thing that I learned when I Googled Serbia one time. Sounds good. All right, we will talk to you guys again on Sunday. You can follow us on DNVR Rockies on Twitter. TheDNVR.com is, of course, where you can find all of our fantastic content. And you can follow me at the Suzie Hunter on all platforms. Yahir, what's your Twitter handle?
It's my first name, Yahir, YHIR_Vasquez, if you want to follow an okay producer.
He is a great producer. Do not sell yourself short ever again on my show. How dare you? All right. Thank you guys so much. We will talk to you on Sunday. And you know what I say about show closings is that I don't know how to do them. So we'll talk to you soon.